So we have muted everyone, and only the panelists will be able to unmute themselves. The meeting is being recorded. It will be available on our Facebook page. Let me welcome you to the 88th edition with the teacher of teachers today on 10 years of POCSO developmental implications for evidence eliciting. Next slide, please. Let me hand over the session to Professor Dr. Tufan Pati sir, chairman of this program. Sir, over to you. Sir, please unmute.
Yes, I have unmuted. Thank you, Alim, and thank you, Amrit. We have got two vibrant moderators with us all the while. I welcome them, Dr. Amrit Patajoshi and Dr. Lim Siddiqui. Please gloss over the slides. Yes, Dr. Amrit Patajoshi and Dr. Lim Siddiqui. Next slide, please. Our chairperson, Dr. Devashish Kunnar, who did his postgraduation in psychiatry from Ranchi, CIP, and he is a private practitioner in Burdwan and Kolkata. He is the president of Indian Association of Child and Adolescent Mental Health now. He is vice president, president-elect of West Bengal branch of Indian Psychiatric Society. He is working as a consultant psychiatrist for the last 26 years of experience. He had neurology training from Nimans, Bangalore, and training in older psychiatry from England and child psychiatry from Canada. He has got a variety of experience, and I do think that he will contribute a lot into this program. Next, please. Dr. Umesh Nagapurkar. Welcome, sir. He is an alumnus of BJ Medical College, Pune. He is ex-lecturer of Maharashtra Institute of Mental Health, Pune. He is a practicing psychiatrist since 1966, a long time. And he is secretary of IPS Nasik local branch. And he is vice president of IPS Western Zone branch. Welcome, Dr. Nagapurkar and Dr. Devashish Kunnar. Now, one has to introduce the speaker and the other, the slides, and the other one will introduce the topic. Dr. Devashish Kunnar and Dr. Nagapurkar, Shamanov will introduce the speaker, it is being displayed, and then the other person will. You can talk over here on this platform, no problem, we are very informed. Dr. Nagapurkar will introduce our speaker. Hello.
Umesh sir.
Umesh sir.
Unmute. Yeah. Yes.
आप introduce करेंगे या topic
Yeah. Yes sir. Yes sir.
Then slide is here, you introduce, and then Dr. Devashish will be introducing the topic, and the meeting will go to the man of the day, Dr. Shekhar Seshadri.
Yeah. Yes sir. I'm also very eager. First, humble submission that while you introducing, you unfortunately it was, I think, printing mistake, some kind of that. I am practicing in Nasik since 1996, not 66, sir. Yeah. First of all, thank you very much, IPS Odisha branch for.
30 साल ज़्यादा दे दिया, कोई बात
नहीं. ज़्यादा बुड्ढा भी मत करिए. Thank you very much, Dr. Tufan Pati sir, my good friends Alim and Amrit for having me here today in this session. It has been almost more than 1.5 years now. This program is running very successful and very popular among psychiatrists in India and abroad also. I happened to listen to Dr. Shekhar Seshadri couple of times earlier also online. And Dr. Shekhar Seshadri has been associated with child psychiatry in India, along with Dr. Shobha and Dr. Savita Balotra. I happened to meet him in 1990. I remember still in Child and Adolescent Psychiatry Conference in Pune when we were students. His work in the area of child sexual abuse and intervention has helped several of us. And his Samvad, Nimans initiative, and childproject.in has been extremely useful resource for all of us lay psychiatrists. So I think the information over here, everyone could read, but this happened to be my personal introduction of Dr. Shekhar Seshadri. Over to our co-chairperson.
Hello, good evening. I'm Devasis. It is a real pleasure for me to be here. I have been asked to introduce the topic. Actually, I learned the topic from Sekhar Sisadri. Whenever he talked about it, I listened to it and I learned it. So I'll be just giving a few things that I understand. POCSO has been a real development in the Indian legal system, which actually laws were there earlier also. Laws were there in fragmented manner, means the acts were there for punishment when children were harmed sexually in some way or other. But with POCSO, things got consolidated. We have everything related to children got consolidated into this act, and which came into start at 2012, and 10 years. In these 10 years, there have been a lot of development mainly from two angles. Means one is the crime and punishment, which is legal and police, how to do it, how to record, how to interview, all those things are their department also. But psychiatrists and psychologists have contributed a lot. The one of the pioneer and one of the main person is Dr. Sekhar Sisadri. So, and there have been many psychologists who have been who have been contributing to this field. Means developmental implications for evidence eliciting, means we have to be sensitive. The methods have to be in a way that it doesn't overwhelm the child and doesn't harm the child, and confidentiality and other issues, they have to be developed, and they have been developed a lot over this period. So we'll hear from Dr. Sekhar Sisadri how things have taken shape and how much we know and how much we still need to improve. Those issues he will be discussing. It is always a pleasure to have Dr. Sekhar Sisadri as a speaker. I remember some 30 years or some 25, 30 years back, in one of the meetings, he was telling that it is as prevalent in India also. So I had raised a doubt, and he said that you don't ask, so you don't get. So but later I realized that with the coming data, that really these things are important issues of our society also. My impression was that it is more in the West and not here, because West started talking about it earlier. So my impression was on that basis, but I realized that these are very important issues and we have been learning from him. So again, we are with him to learn about the topic. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Devuda. And I think it is also a special moment because both the president and the vice president of the Indian Academy Association of Child and Adolescent Mental Health are present here. Devuda, as you know, is the president, and I'm the vice president of the association. And what could be more fitting than in this occasion, 2022, which is 10 years of POCSO, that I was able, in my discussion with Aleem Bhai, to work on this topic and present it for your consideration. As Devuda pointed out, the culture of denial and the conspiracy of silence. I beg your pardon, I think I've hit the wrong screen share. Let me rectify that. There we are. The culture of denial and the conspiracy of silence that constituted child sexual abuse persisted till our efforts to mainstream it in psychiatry has resulted in a scenario where increasingly we are beginning to be called upon to assist children from this predicament. Friends, what I've chosen for you today in recognition of 10 years of this law having come into existence, POCSO was promulgated in 2012, is to focus on a very niche area, which is the developmental implications for evidence eliciting, not evidence gathering. And there is a very significant difference between evidence eliciting and evidence gathering. This is in the context of what we are increasingly presenting as transdisciplinary approaches in the practice of child mental health. It is not enough for a mental health professional to diagnose post-traumatic stress disorder. You have to assist a child in the secondary traumatization that takes place in trial processes. It is not enough for a judge to listen to testimony and adjudicate. Who is the child that you're talking to? 2 years old, 5 years old, 8 years old, 8 years old with intellectual disability, hearing and speech problems. So how do you really elicit evidence? And as Umesh pointed out, I do represent Samvad here, which is a national initiative and integrated resource for child protection, mental health, and psychosocial care in the department that I retired from in November last year, but with which I continue in a full-time advisory capacity. We are functional now in 29 states, and a bit on that a little later. Let's look at some fundamental questions. What are the issues of child witnesses in CSA cases? Why are they important? Why are issues of child witnesses in child sexual abuse cases important? As pointed out, the enactment of POCSO was in 2012. And the need for child victims to provide testimony in the background, that what happens in child sexual abuse often is that only the child and the accused may be present, that there is often no corroborating evidence. And one of the many contexts where children now interface with the law, CSA being a criminal context, and this is why issues of child witnesses in CSA cases are important. Let's examine some key questions. Can children be competent witnesses? What developmental abilities make for a competent child witness? How do we determine whether a child has the developmental capacity for provision of valid and reliable evidence? How do you assess a child's developmental abilities for provision of evidence? What methods can we use to assess child witness competency? And what should be mental health professionals' report to the court? What should this report consist of? As you ponder over these questions, let's look at what the dimensions of child witness competence are. The capacity to observe an event, the ability to recall the event, sufficient communication skills that convey that memory, the ability to distinguish between fact and fiction, and the capacity to appreciate one's duty to tell the truth in the court. अब ये जो चौखट जो है, ये डायमेंशंस जो है कि किसी बच्चे ने यौन शोषण या यौन दौर्जन्य का अनुभव किया है, experienced and endured, you are not only experiencing and enduring an event, but there is an observational part of that element. And imagine how you expect a child to actually code through observation the memories of that event so that it is subject to recall. अब ये देखिए दोस्तों कि इंडियन एविडेंस एक्ट जो है and POCSO 2012, what are the dilemmas posed and what does the Indian Evidence Act state? It states that the minimum age of child witness, all persons shall be competent to testify unless the court considers that they are prevented from understanding the questions put to them or from giving rational answers to those questions by tender years. Tender years. Extreme old age disease, whether of body or mind, or any other cause of the same kind. There's no fixed age below which children are incompetent to give evidence. अब सवाल ये उठता है, what is the definition of tender years? What do we mean by tender years? अब आगे बढ़ते हैं Evidence Act. In ascertaining the competency of the child witness, the Indian Evidence Act states that a person of any age is competent to give evidence if he or she is able to, number one, understand questions put to him or her as a witness, and two, to give answers to them which can be understood. So the decision about the competence of a child witness must depend on the good sense and the discretion of the judge. But what is the age of the child? What are the developmental abilities of the child vis-a-vis speech, cognition, and memory? Does the child have intellectual disability? And what do we mean by the judge's discretion? Now, if the judge were to ask, pointing to a picture in the courtroom, कि ये किसका तस्वीर है? And the child says, ये गांधी बाबा का तस्वीर है. And the judge says, competent. Or the judge says, आज सुबह नाश्ते में क्या खाया? The child says, डोसा खाया या पूरी भाजी खाया. The judge says that, okay, the child is competent. Is this what we mean by understanding questions put to him or her as witness? Now, the challenges and tensions in eliciting evidence from child witness, particularly in an adversarial justice system. On the one hand, there is the need for accuracy, detailed narratives on abuse, identification of the abuse, and the ability to withstand cross-examination. And then there is the child witness, which, as I mentioned, the issues of language, comprehension, cognition, anxiety, and trauma. So the role of the mental health professionals is to navigate these challenges and tensions by providing developmental assessments to the child, communicating with the court to provide information on the child's developmental capacities, and recommendations for whether the child can provide testimony and conditions and assistance the child will require in order to provide this testimony. तो ये आपका पात्र है और ये आपकी जिम्मेदारी है. Now, you may recall many sessions ago that I said that one of the deficiencies in postgraduate training in psychiatry is that ये सब पढ़ाते नहीं है. And this is what we have been pressing to be included. And this is what Debuda and my role as executive members of the Indian Association of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry have been doing in terms of the course that we are running as well. This is indeed part of the program that we are doing as our responsibilities in Samvad. Now, The key areas of child development are physical है, social है, language, cognitive and emotional. So दैहिक विकास, सामाजिक विकास, भाषा, बौद्धिक विकास और भावनाओं का विकास. ये 5 क्षेत्र में अगर आप बाल विकास को देखें, अब सवाल ये उठता है, can we elicit evidence from a 2-year-old? 4 साल का बच्चा हो तो, a 10-year-old with intellectual disability, a 12-year-old with speech and hearing disabilities, a 14-year-old with speech and hearing disabilities plus intellectual disability, a 15-year-old with average cognitive speech and language capacities but severe PTSD. तो सवाल ये उठता है कि evidence eliciting में चुनौती क्या है in a case where there are deficits in a given domain as described here, and how will we overcome or navigate these challenges? Are there certain instances in which it is not possible to elicit evidence from the child? Let's look at it in a little more detail when we go to developmental stages in children's ability to disclose abuse. Look at this age group, infancy. The ability, so we have age, we have ability to provide abuse narratives, and we have the emotional and behavioral symptoms indicative of abuse. So if you look at infancy, 0 to 18 months, obviously they'll be unable to make disclosures. And cases can be substantiated only if there's an eyewitness or the perpetrator confesses or the infants are found to have STD, sperm or semen in their examination. So we are looking at physical and medical evidence. Now at this age group, fear responses, being fussier than normal, reluctance to have diaper changes, and at 1.5 to 2 years of age, occasionally, genital handling and so on, are some behavioral indicators that you may have to consider. Now, if you move from infancy to toddlerhood, they also have limited communication skills, so they are unlikely to report. But simple phrases may be the only clue that something has happened, such as OEPP, daddy, while pointing to their genital area. And you know that toddlers cannot sequence time and place very well and will not be able to tell you often that something has happened, when it happened, or even where it happened. Only some children may know their body parts or understand right from wrong. So to substantiate abuse, again, a witness, a confession, or medical evidence is required. But they may show fear and anxiety. They may mimic sexual acts, regressive behaviors, difficulty in toilet training, sleep disturbances, and emotional irritability, tantrums, and clinginess to caregivers. If you move to preschoolers, during an interview, one must be aware that they become easily distracted or revert to physical activity, or phrases such as, I don't know, I can't remember. You may get small excerpts with minimum details, some disorganized thought processes. Again, temporal and spatial relationships are poorly defined. कुछ उनको पता होता है जन्मदिन, bedtime वगैरह. On occasion, they may be specific enough to give details to be a good witness in court. Demonstration is a better tool. They may confuse he, she, me. Substantiation may rely on finding acute injuries, but asking short, specific questions without being leading to draw, demonstrate might be easier than verbal communication, at all times making the child feel at ease and safe because they are fearful. So they may exhibit sexualized play, somatic complaints, genital discomfort, nightmares, tantrums, withdrawal, mood lability, and other psychosocial problems. At elementary school, reluctance and tentativeness. Role play is an appropriate tool, drawing, use of dolls. Building a rapport before interview begins is important because frequently they are embarrassed and uncomfortable. And one way to ease their discomfort is to engage them in simultaneous activities like drawing. तो यहाँ confusion, conflict, guilt शुरू हो जाता है, but you may find the same behavioral symptoms, either internalizing or externalizing, with some physical symptoms, particularly regressive symptoms like enuresis or somatic symptoms. And in adolescence, more at ease, a more formal approach to interview, keep your questions brief and clinically oriented, yet let them know their feelings and opinions are important, and reassure them that they are not at fault for what has happened. So this whole shame and guilt that the abuse was their fault, and not only do they feel uncomfortable about sexual molestation, but awkward and self-conscious about their own bodies. And finally, in adolescence, to maximize the outcome of the interview, an open, direct approach is usually the best. At all times, being serious about their concerns and supportive of their needs, and being honest with them. So here, defined aggressive behaviors, high-risk behaviors, self-cutting, and they may present again with somatic complaints and dissociative symptoms. So the modes for assessing child witness competency, which is the substance of what I want to share with you today, is something like this. सबसे पहली बात यह है कि cognitive ability, the ability to identify objects, and a very preliminary process in child forensic interviewing is something like this.
Thank you for coming today, Kriti. I have another surprise game for you today.
Wow, another game.
Yes, and let me show you now how it works. So, you see many cards on the table, right?
Yes.
So, the cards this side have some pictures on them, and they also have questions. And the cards that side have pictures on them, and they are the answers to these question cards. So here's how we play it. I will pick up a question card and read you the question and ask, and you would have to tell me what the answer is or what you think the best answer is.
I'm ready.
Great. Right, let's start. What do you need when it rains?
I use an umbrella.
Yes, very good. Can you put that together?
Yes.
Question and answer. Very good. What does a baby need when it is hungry?
Baby needs milk.
Excellent. Here. What do you need to open a lock?
I know
on a
this.
door?
We need a key.
Yes.
Can I put
correct. Yes. Okay. Did you have a cake on your birthday?
I had.
What cake was it?
It was a big chocolate cake.
Like this one?
Yes, exactly like this.
And what did you blow out on the chocolate cake?
Lots of candles.
Yes, correct. When it is cold, what do we wear?
Sweaters.
That is right.
So as you see, this is a basic activity where we start with some simple objects. We've established the child's cognitive ability in terms of identification of objects and their function. If we go further into the cognitive ability to describe actions and behaviors, this is how we do it.
So now, Kriti, we are going to play another game. Okay?
Wow, new game.
New game now. So this game is called action game. Okay? So I'm going to show you a few things. I will do a few things. I want you to tell me what I am doing. Okay? Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
Watch me carefully.
You are rubbing your nose.
Yes. Okay. Next one.
You are sleeping?
Correct. What is that? I'm doing.
It's clapping.
Yes. Now I'll show you a few pictures and tell me what each person in the picture is doing, okay?
He is brushing his teeth.
Correct.
Mom is cooking.
Yes. What is she cooking?
I think she's making dal.
Is that your favorite dish?
No, I don't like it.
What's your favorite dish then?
I like to eat porridge.
Porridge with sugar?
Yes, with sugar.
You know,
So as you can see, this activity
so now Kriti, we are going to
this activity can be done through actions, or it can be done through cards as well. And so we did the cognitive ability to identify objects, cognitive ability to describe actions. And then what we
now
do is to look at cognitive ability, looks at recognizing spaces. So this becomes fairly critical to keep in mind as we these are all methodologies to see what are we doing here, friends. We are looking at establishing competency for eliciting evidence. Have a look at this.
So just like the other game we played, these are some cards with pictures on them, and then there are another set of cards here with pictures on them. And again, there are questions and there are answers. Okay? So before we start playing the game, let me ask you a couple of questions as part of the game, okay? Just to get some practice before we do this, right? Where do we live?
We live in a house.
That is correct, right? In your house, there are many different places, right? What are some of the places in the house?
The kitchen where my mother cooks. Then our living room where everybody comes.
Okay,
Then my bedroom, which has a lot of my toys.
okay,
And then my grandparents' room. And then there is a bathroom where we go and take a bath. And then we brush our teeth. And there's a toilet. And there is the roof.
okay, very good. So now I know all the spaces you have in your house. When you go out of the house with mommy, with daddy, and so on, what are all the places you visit outside the house?
We go to the park. I meet my friends there. We go to my uncle's place, which is very near. I go to the school
Okay,
and sometimes to the mall.
the mall. What is in the mall? What happens there?
You get a lot of toys and we buy clothes and other things.
I see. And what do you do in the park? What do people generally do in the park?
I play with my friends. There are a lot of swings. I like that.
Okay. So there are places in the house and there are places you go to outside the house, right?
Yes.
Like the mall, like the park, like school maybe.
Yes.
Right? Okay, so let's look at some picture cards. I think you'll find this quite easy then. So first question, where do you sleep at night?
I sleep
Can
on
you
a
find
bed
And where is that bed?
in the bedroom.
Okay, you want to join it? Very good. Where do you take a bath?
In the bathroom.
Okay. You take a shower bath or a bucket bath?
A shower bath.
Okay.
So as you can see, again, this activity is done both by discussions, it is done through pictures, but it is also interspersed with some interesting questions which helps the child feel that at ease, and that the person who is trying to establish competency is kind of interested in the child's ability. So
just like
then we go to the cognitive ability, which is about knowledge of sequences. So you see, we moved from objects to actions to spaces to sequences now. Let's see how this takes place.
So, Kriti, you know how at different times of the day we do different things?
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about what we do and things that happen at different times of the day, right? When does the sun come out?
In the morning when we wake up.
Right. And when does the moon come out?
At night when we go to bed.
So they come out at different times, right? The sun
Yeah.
in the morning, the moon at night. Okay. When do you brush your teeth?
After I wake up in the morning.
Right. What time of day do you go to school?
In the morning at 7 o'clock.
Okay. Do you go to school before breakfast or after eating breakfast?
After eating breakfast. My homework and then we go to sleep.
Okay. So it's quite a busy day.
Yes.
Waking up, going to school, coming home, then playing with friends, so on. So you said that you go to school in a school bus.
Yes. It's
What?
a big bus.
Oh, what color is it?
It's a yellow colored bus.
Okay. Do many children come on it or few children?
Many children. Some children
So you
from
can see that
small
a
children,
lot more
some
information
big
is being
children.
elicited here.
Okay. And who do you sit next to in the school bus?
My friend Akshita. Only these 3 people.
Okay. And what games do you play with them?
We play football sometimes and sometimes we skip in the game speed.
And then we go into identifying similarities and differences. So you can see that there are increasing complexities by which we are actually eliciting the competency of the child witness. And let's see how this is done.
So, Kriti, what do you see on these cards?
A lot of animals.
Correct. So, what I'd like you to do now is see if you can see more than one picture of the same animal. So, for example, what is this animal?
Elephant.
Do you see another elephant like that?
Yes.
Exactly.
Here.
Okay. Do you see, what is this?
A dog. I
Is there
can find
another
the
one?
dog. Here.
Very good. What is this?
It's a zebra.
Is there another zebra?
Here.
Okay. What is this?
A tortoise.
Is there another tortoise?
Now, this is important because in an adversarial system, this is the kind of tactic that the defense lawyers use to confuse the child, to say that was he similar to this person? Then how do we know that this is the accused and not the accused for the? So in order to establish that the child has the ability, these are some of the techniques that we use to establish competency.
No, I think one is yellow, one is pink.
Okay. Are these two cards or pictures the same?
No, now there are three cats. They have a friend.
Okay. And is this and this cat the same? Are these three the same?
No, this cat is grey, this is yellow, and this is pink.
Is this cat and this cat different?
Yes, this is a big cat. These are baby cats. And this cat is yellow in color.
Okay. Which is the biggest cat?
She's the biggest cat.
Which is the second biggest cat?
This is the second biggest cat.
And
So this kind of evidence is very important as we go ahead. And some of the final issues in actually preliminary processes in child forensic interviewing actually relies on the whole memory component of it. And let's see how this is done.
I see that you have drawn a picture of all kinds of animals.
Yes, I love animals.
Okay. Have you ever been to a zoo?
Yes, with my parents.
When was that?
It was in December when we had my winter break.
Oh, in the winter holidays. This year or last year?
This year. It's also my birthday. So my parents took me to the zoo for my birthday.
How nice. Did you enjoy it?
Yes, I love animals.
Can you tell me all that you did on your birthday last year?
So I asked my parents, they asked me what do I want, and I asked them to take me to the zoo, and they took me to the zoo. So we went to the zoo in the morning, and then my mother called everybody home and they got me a new dress. And when we came back from the zoo, my dad got us a cake and it had a big penguin on it because I love animals. And then my friends came over, and when my friends came, then my parents got me a doll. My friend got me a basketball ring. So my mom told me one day before, it was a surprise, that we will.
Sandwiches were there.
She put tomatoes in it and potatoes in it and a lot of cheese.
So you can see that what the child worker is trying to do is to test the memory using an anchor event, which was the birthday. And this is called scaffolding. And scaffolding is a very important technique to use. And let's see how this interview proceeds.
Okay. That's an interesting dress. Never knew there were penguin dresses. And you said your aunt and uncle and grandparents were there. You also said you had friends at the birthday party. Who came?
My friend Akshita, my friend Karan, and Ruchi. And two friends who are my neighbors.
So you see that this is the way that the memory testing is done. Then we move into identification of body parts, and this is how that goes.
So, Kriti, today we are going to play a name game.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see whether Kriti can name all the different parts of her body. That's the game. Okay. So let's go one by one. What is this?
This is your nose.
Where are Kriti's eyes?
Here.
What is this?
Lips.
Teeth.
Tongue.
Where is Kriti's head?
Here.
And her head?
Here.
So they are using an interaction between the two of them to really assess ascertain and confirm that the child has the ability to identify body parts. I beg your pardon.
So Kriti, today,
And then,
Kriti's arms,
and as you
when
proceed,
Kriti eats her food, it all goes into her tummy. Yes. What is this part called?
Chest.
Okay. On the chest, there are two things. What is that called?
Boo-boo.
Okay. So
whatever the child uses as a terminology is so documented, but then it is later confirmed by
how many
pointing
boo-boos
it
are
out.
there?
2.
Okay. Right. What is this?
This is neck.
Okay. If this is Kriti,
That's why
can
you
you
go to
show
the
me
doll.
where her nunu is?
Here.
Can you show me exactly where it is?
Between the legs. Here.
Okay, that is the nunu. And this?
This is the bum.
Okay. So now we named all the different body parts. Let's see what we do with different parts. What do we do?
We eat an ice cream.
That's true, actually.
So that's how, and finally, in order to test the child's descriptive ability, this is the kind of technique that one uses.
So, Kriti, what do you see in this picture?
This is a boy. He's playing with his brother, and this is his mother. He wants to play with the brother, and the mum is talking to him, and there are a lot of toys. He got these toys for his brother. They want to play together, but his brother is too tiny. That's why the brother cannot play, and the mum is saying that you wait.
Okay. And what color is the mother's sari?
Mother's sari is blue color, and she's also feeding the baby. So she's saying wait because the baby is very hungry.
Okay. And what is happening here on this side?
Then because the brother is not playing, he goes out to play with in the park. And in the park there is a cat, there's a dog, and then these are some other animals all playing. These are all his. This mouse is Choo Choo. This goat is Moo.
He's holding something in his hand. What is that?
He's holding sunglasses because it's.
So as you can see, the descriptive ability is established. Then we have the whole truth and lies issue, which is quite significant. And let's see how that is done.
So, Kriti, as you know, many children just like you come here, and I talk to them to find out what happened, what was difficult, what was confusing for them, what made them sad. And so that we understand, I understand what exactly happened to them, we need children to tell the truth.
So you see how the child worker is explaining to the child. So this part under POCSO in terms of, and this is not tutoring, this is preparation permitted by, and these are standard processes which are internationally recommended about how you basically elicit competence of the child to give testimony. So I beg your pardon. So proceeding further on the same.
So, Kriti, as you know, to find out what happened, what was difficult, and so that we understand, I understand what exactly happened to them, we need children to tell the truth, right? That is, tell what has really and truly happened to them. Now, just so that we understand what the difference is between what is true and what is not true, Let's play a small game. Okay? If I tell you that Kriti's hair is pink, is that true or not true?
Not true. My hair is black.
Correct. If I were to say Kriti is wearing a red dress,
That's true.
okay. If I say this is a lion, is that true or not true?
That's a parrot.
Okay. If I say this is a fish, is it true or not true?
Yes, that's Nemo the fish.
To say Kriti is smaller than him, would that be true or would that be a lie?
That's a lie. I'm not a baby.
So this is the series of steps that we take, as I've attempted to demonstrate to you through these training videos that we've developed. And you can see that communication with the court and reporting and documentation based on this eliciting of competency. So a mental health assessment, any psychiatric disorders, including their context, a developmental assessment, and overall developmental assessment using standardized scales and proformas, specific assessments of child witness competence and ability, as I've discussed so far, detailed documentations of activities and methods used to establish developmental activities, and the conclusion, can the child provide valid and reliable testimony, followed by recommendations, what accommodations does the child witness need to provide testimony, such as psychiatric treatment and therapy, or the length of deposition, or frequency of breaks, or speech and hearing and expert assistance. And with the recommendation of the support person as mandated in POCSO, with the kind of clinical assessment. So what a mental health professional needs to do is to communicate with the court through documentation all these parameters which are important. This is followed essentially by some things that I would like to share with you, friends. So my intention in today's session was to take you through a series of steps which speak about the developmental implications of evidence eliciting. So if you want to elicit evidence, these are the kind of steps that you have to establish before you actually elicit the evidence. On this occasion of Thursday Musings in 2022, which happens to be 10 years of POCSO, from Samvad, I just wish to say that Samvad is happy to collaborate with institutes of mental health and departments of psychiatry and psychology on all child sexual abuse and POCSO related events. In fact, from 20th to 30th April, we are running a residential program from faculty of national and state institutes and centers of excellence for psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers with long-term positions in institutions. We still have 3 or 4 places left. We will bear the cost of the interstate travel and accommodation in Nimhan, support by Samvad. Please note that this 10-day program is residential. We would prefer people to come from state institutes because we want to build this kind of competence in various regions of India. We prefer people who have long-term positions, not senior residents or clinical psychologists who do not have a permanent position, because we want to build institutional capacity across the country to support what the mandate of Samvad is, which is child protection, mental health, and psychosocial care. For those of you who are interested, please do mail us at info@nimhanschildprotect.in so that we'd be able to accommodate in the 3 or 4 positions that we have left. Friends, these are our social media handles. Our website is nimhanschildprotect.in. You have our Twitter handle, our Facebook, and our website, as well as our Insta handles and our number. I hope that this session has been useful for the many of you who've joined in today. I'm happy to see that more than 200 are there in this session. I'm also happy to note the various comments that have already come on chat. Alim Bhai, saying it was a great demo, and my brother Amrit saying it was an eye opener. Jyoti, thank you very much for saying it was a comprehensive run through to establish competency. Fabian, thanks as always for your affirmation. And as Alim has pointed out, do post. Jyoti, we did run an online program, but the issue is that this, we require a real in-depth 10-day program because we want to build solid forensic competencies. Like I said, Samvad wants to propagate transdisciplinary approach in child mental health. So this is why we are doing it, Sajja. Thank you. And I'm delighted to see my friend Philip John. I have recently returned after a break from Dubai, Philip, and you were fondly remembered because of the phenomenal work that you have done there. And I hope you have been well, my friend. And with that, with some questions coming in with Abhishek and all, but I hand you over to Amrit and to Alim to basically curate the Q&A session. Over to you.
So first the chairpersons, I think, for the opening remarks.
Yes.
For the whole session, sir. Umesh sir and Devasis sir.
Yes, we had a very practical kind of session where we really learned how to do it. Means the whole process of it was demonstrated, and that gives you a real feel of the thing, how it increases your curiosity towards many more things that are done for the total assessment. And it is good that he has announced a program of 10 days for practical training. So we'll like to have questions and discussion, whatever the moderator feels is good from the chat, and also maybe someone can unmute and put the question, and I think we'll have a good discussion. Thank you.
Umesh sir.
Yeah, I think, thank you, Dr. Shekhar, for very comprehensive illustration of establishing competencies, cognitive competencies with regards to child's cognitive ability. And it was really a very practical videos. And I think these kind of videos, we learn more from such kind of videos rather than just theoretical discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Actually, it was I think the way you knit the videos together, so the whole thing has come out so well. I think this recording will be watched over and over again. It will be available with us. I'll send it to you, sir, also. So thank you so much, sir. Amrit, we can start the questions.
Yeah, sir, when sir started the presentation, he asked a lot of questions. What about this child who has this? What about this child who has this? What about a 10-year child who has hearing and speech impairment? So one question has come from Sri Vidya. With children who have speech difficulties or hearing difficulty, how does the process of assessment differ? Also, does the law have any special provisions for the same? We see a lot of abuse occurring with this subset of children. So what are the provisions? Are they a little different, sir? Your thoughts on that, sir?
Yeah, Amrit, I wanted to say that in the Samvad YouTube channel, you will find a recording of a session that I had done for the All India Institute of Speech and Hearing, Mysore, where I specifically addressed this question of evidence gathering from children with evidence eliciting from children with hearing and speech disability. Now, here is the thing. If a child has hearing and speech disability, but does not have intellectual disability, then you can rely on drawings and play to accurately elicit evidence. And as somebody has asked in the chat, I think Abhishek asked, do we need to record the assessment session? And indeed, that is very critical to record exactly how the evidence was elicited, and you present all that data as evidence. One of the most critical things in presenting evidence, and in fact, we in this forensic program, we also have a session on the psychiatrist as an expert witness. And when I had gone as expert witness, and I want to give you a couple of examples, there were a set of 6 girls in a childcare institution who were actually with the connivance of the superintendent of that childcare institution, sort of made to escape, and the whole idea was to traffic them for sex work. And these were girls. 2 of them had hearing and speech disability, and we had organized for a sign language, because they knew sign language, for a sign language interpreter to actually do the evidence game. Now, look at the defense lawyer when I went as expert witness. Doctor, can you tell me the name of the sign language interpreter? Not recorded in the file. Can you show me the referral letter that you've written through the sign language interpreter inviting? Not present in the file. So this is how they can. Then how do I know that you may just be making up fictitious, that there is no referral letter, you don't even know the name, on which date was it done. So as Abhishek Pratap points out, recording these assessment sessions, whether it is a video recording or whether it is a verbatim recording with the exact date, time, who did it, who was present there, how was it done, and the processes are well documented, is exceedingly important. So friends, do have a look at the Samvad YouTube channel, the session with the All India Institute of Speech and Hearing, where we have details of how we elicited evidence from children who have hearing and speech deficit.
So sorry to interrupt you. So can we have a session on this on Thursday Musings?
I would be delighted and to do it.
That will be a continuation of this, sir. Maybe in the next 5 to 6 weeks, we'll have one session. Thank you so much, sir, for accepting.
Is there any problems in recording? Any ethical issues in recording the sessions?
See, a lot depends on whether if the context in which the child comes to a mental health professional. If a FIR has already been lodged and the request comes either from the police who is taking statement under 161 or the magistrate who is taking the 164 statement to assist the court, then there is a court order that is mandating your assistant as an expert to elicit the evidence. On the other hand, if a child has come to you primarily and an FIR has not been lodged and the charge sheet has not been filed yet, then now this is very critical, because if your expert evidence is filed along with the charge sheet, it strengthens the case for the prosecution. And if that evidence is not filed with the charge sheet, then so it is the same ethical considerations of taking permission with any kind. When you do psychotherapy session recording, you take the necessary consent from the concerned people, and the reason for the recording is actually so. This is standard practice, and if you actually look at the National Child Protection Authority of Sri Lanka, which actually set up the evidence eliciting thing many years before us, that they have a system of video recording, and the video recording is presented as evidence. Of course, the extent to which video recording is accepted as evidence in the court is subject to other documentation that goes with it, which is on which date was done, who did it, who was there, under what circumstances was it done, is it encrypted or not. So there are many other issues that one needs to keep in mind about the acceptability of But having said that, don't you have video recordings of traffic offenses that you use to find people? So, these are things that a prosecution actually needs to argue that. Over to you.
Yeah, sir, actually, I think these things should be very important because from a point of view of defense lawyer, they will defend vociferously because the punishment is stringent. So I think all the nuts and bolts should be in the right place. Otherwise, they can puncture your testimony. Nimi wants to congratulate you and ask, how can we ensure and assess the child is not giving a false testimony? It has been happening that children are forced to give false testimony for the benefit of adults. And let me add, suppose the child is giving a false testimony without any provocation, out of you can say himself or herself.
As a clinician, the question that one would often ask is how old is the child, and what is the motivation for this assumption or concern that this may be a false allegation. I want to draw your attention, friends. Nimi Michael is a very familiar name. This is an old friend from Nimhans, if I'm not mistaken. Hello, Nimi. And is basically this. I draw your attention. Please read one of my papers in Indian Journal of Psychiatry entitled "Our Failure to Protect Sexually Abused Children. Where is your willing suspension of disbelief?" Now, if something has happened or not happened, and there is an allegation, my point is always this, that if you were to make an error of judgment as a mental health professional, should your error of judgment be in favor of belief, or should it be in favor of disbelief? So it has not happened. The child says that something has happened. It has not happened. You believe. The child says something has happened. It has not happened. You do not believe. So far, so good. The child says something has happened. You believe. Good. Child says something has happened. It has happened, and you do not believe. You see the not just the danger, but the disservice that you're doing by making an error of judgment in favor of disbelief. Your error of judgment should always be in favor of belief. So it is very difficult for a young child to give a false allegation, right? Because they do not have that kind of knowledge of sexuality too. So we have written a lot on the whole issue of tutoring, and there is a whole difference between tutoring and preparation, and which is where a comprehensive, you remember when I spoke about the assessment. So are there parental marital issues involved, and would there be an instance where a child is being tutored to give a false allegation because there is a pre-existing marital discourse and there is a divorce and a custody case pending there? So, and do they constitute the majority of cases in which a child sexual abuse case actually comes to the court? That's the framework, friends, that we need to keep in mind. But do read our paper in Indian Journal of Psychiatry, Our Failure to Protect Sexually Abused Children, Where is a Willing Suspension of Disbelief? Co-written by me, with the primary author being Sheila Ramaswamy, who is the technical and operational lead of Samvad. Alim, Amrit, over to you.
Sir, there's another question that's the most important question actually in the whole scheme of things. How to make the parents, guardians to agree for reporting of these child sexual abuse in totality? So many cases go unreported. Even when they come to us, we try to convince that, no, it is somebody in my family, the whole family will be destroyed, this is going to happen. Somewhere the blame is being put on the child. I see a lot of blame games on the child. They're shamed, and the whole trail leads to a lot of things, sir. How do you handle this, sir?
Amrit, one of the issues with POCSO is the issue of mandatory reporting. Now, it is obligatory on a professional to mandatorily report, not just if an abuse is reported to you, but even when you suspect abuse. And the law says that you're liable to prosecution for failure to report. But here's what we need to understand. Mandatory reporting is a process. It is not as though a child reports to you and the very next moment you have to report to the Special Juvenile Police Unit. It's a process. Now, the hesitancies that a child or a family may have to report, a child may have disclosed to you and a child may say, please do not tell my parents, otherwise you'll destroy my family. The family may say, we are telling you, but please do not report. We don't want to get into court processes. We don't think, we don't want to get into that jamela. If you report, then we'll be finished. You need to understand the nature of their hesitancies, the nature of their anxieties and fear, and address them. This also we have written about in our website, which is NIMHANS childprotect.in. If you go to our resource materials and our training materials, that we have a whole section in the evidence gathering, that is developmental and mental health implications of evidence gathering under POCSO. We have a manual. We have a whole section there on the dilemmas of mandatory reporting and the kind of processes that one goes through in mandatory reporting. So there's a sequence of steps to when you take them. So you understand their anxieties, you allay them, you tell them about the provision for support people, you talk to them about fast-track processes, about the necessity to report. You understand the dynamics and the predicament of the family, see what is the best that you can put to do a support structure. Is there an extended family would be a support structure, particularly if, let's say, a close family member is the perpetrator. So there are all these kind of complexities that we need to understand to really also understand what the hesitancies for mandatory reporting are. Amrit, Ali?
How do we make the parents understand? Suppose they are asking a therapist to tell yes or no whether the abuse has happened or not. So how do we make them understand this complexity, and how do we psychoeducate them?
Ali, these complexities are always processes. It is not कि एक शाम को बुलाया बैठाया 40 मिनट कुछ बक दिए और ये विश्वास कर लिया कि सब मामला set हो गया. It doesn't happen like that. So these are processes that need to unfold over several sessions. जैसे ब्रेकिंग बैड न्यूज के बारे में भी हम अक्सर एमिली डिकिंसन की कविता का उपयोग करते थे. टेल ऑल द ट्रूथ बट टेल इट स्लैंड. Success in circuit lies too bright for our infirm delight. The truth's superb surprise as lightning to the children eased with explanation kind. The truth must dazzle gradually, else every man be blind. So संपूर्ण सच बोलो लेकिन तिरछा बोलो, धीरे धीरे बोलो. So it's a question of taking them to these processes, and so it cannot be a one-off session. And this is the mistake that many practitioners make, that there has to be a certain gentleness, एक नजाकत जो है इसमें, जो नाजुक जो बारीकियां है इसमें, सूक्ष्म तरीके से. This is very important to really take them to this process of the kind of understanding, Ali, that you're talking about.
Sir, this is another complicated question that has come by Dr. Sabina Rao, all the way from outside. So what about an adult woman who does not have guardianship with intellectual disability, who might have had a sexual incident with a male who is also intellectually disabled at a protected workplace, and she enjoyed it?
It's a complicated issue, but we also need to see it in conjunction with the other part of the work that we are doing in children in conflict with the law. A 16 or 17-year-old who is accused of an alleged child sexual abuse on a 14-year-old or an 8-year-old or a 6-year-old. And we've written a lot on the pathways to vulnerability. Does this 16 or 17-year-old have intellectual disability? Was this 16 or 17-year-old himself or herself abused? Were they exposed prematurely to pornography and to peer pressure? Was it a one-off incident? So this assessment is exceedingly critical to really look at how we balance a situation where both the perpetrator and the victim have intellectual disability. In fact, friends, we are right now running a disability course. Of course, it's a closed course, but hopefully we will put that material out somewhere. And in fact, on 7th of May, the session that I'm doing is a session entirely focused on the issue of disability and sexuality, to understand the context of the sexuality of children and adolescents with intellectual disability and how one deals with it. That I also see, Amrit and Alim, that as happens in many of my sessions, that an enormous number of issues have been put on chat. I'm happy for you to actually take a screenshot of that and send it to me. I'm happy to do a content analysis and do another session for Thursday Musings, where we take a lot of these questions, and I will not do a presentation, but I will do a categorization of what themes or domains these questions represent. And I'm happy to do another session going ahead.
Sure.
Sure. So Alim, I think Sir will come for another session. Let us not stretch it too much. So
I think yeah, let us do a few questions. We have, I think, 5-10 minutes we have.
So wants to present this as a presentation again with all the questions. You have to get the...
Up to you, sir. Do we take the questions or we...
I'm quite happy as long as you wish to stretch it. It's I just see that...
Stretch mat karo.
Sir, a few quick questions. Who certifies these children? Is it a psychiatrist, psychologist, or team? And more than one independent certification is required?
See, by and large, what happens, at least from teaching institutions, is irrespective of who has seen the child. It is the head of the unit, or for example, when I was heading child psychiatry, whoever saw the child, I had to go to court. And I'm continuing to go to, despite the fact that I've retired from NIMHANS. So that's the way things work. But it is not that psychologists are not called upon to present this, particularly if they are government psychologists. But it is not that private psychologists or private mental health professionals cannot be called to present evidence.
So is there any manual for assessing children in POCSO?
Yes, our manual. It's called Developmental and Mental Health Implications of Evidence Gathering. So if you look at our website, you will find the manual there. It's there on the website. It's a very comprehensive manual.
Sir, please post the link because many questions will be solved there only.
No, I will. Should I post the link of the manual, or because it will take me some time to? The website is www.nimhanschildprotect.in, and if you navigate I'm posting all the. But if you navigate, particularly in the training and in the intervention section, or if you go to the search bar and you look at developmental and mental health implications of evidence gathering, you'll find the link there.
Done, sir. Amrit, over to you.
There's one last question. Sir, are children educated about the judicial system and the outcome of the statements? For example, if the perpetrator is a relative and the process they are involved with prior to collecting evidence, when you collect evidence, do you talk to them about the judicial system, what outcomes might happen with the statements and all?
Absolutely. In fact, Amrit, we are in the process of writing, we've already written the paper on court preparation based on our experiences with the Muzaffarpur case, because this was not one child, these were 40 odd children. And as you know, the Supreme Court took the case away from Bihar police and handed it to CBI, and the Supreme Court also instructed us to assist the CBI in evidence eliciting. And my team went there on several occasions to several institutions. It was a 150-page report that was filed along with the charge sheet, and we were part of the support team that assisted when the case went to trial in the special court in Saket in Delhi. The girls were shifted from Patna to Delhi for the case. And as you know, the trial took place in 2019. The conviction came in December of 2019, and the sentencing in Jan of 2020, just before the pandemic hit. And 6 to 7 people were sentenced to life for the rest of their life. So to provide that kind of support to the children, and so court preparation is not the same as tutoring. And so we are writing a whole paper on court preparation that I'd be happy to send you when it is ready and published.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah. Amrit.
Sir,
Are the courts aware that this is how evidence should be elicited from the child?
Sorry, Alim, say that again. No, Alim, I missed the point. What was the question?
Do the courts know that this is a proper process of assessment of a child?
Increasingly, Alim, increasingly, because Samvad, like I said, works in 4 verticals: mental health, education, care and protection, and policy and law. In fact, we are in discussion with the National Judicial Academy in July to hold a national consultation on POCSO and the challenges that we are also working with the state judicial academies and legal services authority. So POCSO ko leke, particularly with this, we've already completed work with at least 3 judicial academies. And so this is part of the judicial education work that Samvad is doing in quite a bit of detail. So they're increasingly becoming aware, and particularly as there is a change in the governance from the scheme mode to the mission mode. As you know, that the early childhood care and education, the Anganwadi ICDS system, immunization, nutrition has now gone into mission 2.0, and all your one-stop centers, women helpline has become mission Shakti, and your child protection, childcare institution, JJ Act has become mission Vatsalya. And we've recently completed a whole set of zonal meetings, where Samvad attended, and we've met people from the state Women and Child Department, Health Department, and the judiciary. This is part of Samvad's mandate, and this is what we are increasingly doing.
Sir, I had only one question before I think we should wind up. So whenever such a thing happens in an institution, like where females have been kept, so and we are called, how do we go about it? Can we have a session on this, sir? A lot of intellectual abuses that occur. How do we go about it when we are called? Or do you have any recordings on this, sir? Like it happened in Bihar, it happens in with time things will more things will come to the forefront. So
yes. So like I said, we have a lot of material on the website in an institution. What is the kind of assessment that can be done to, in fact, the whole thing about the Supreme Court thing was based on a social audit done by the Tata Institute of Social Sciences. So to figure out whether abuse is going on in an institution or not, if you're requested, all those assessment tools are there in our website. We've already put it out.
Okay. Great, sir. I think we can invite the chairpersons for any final comments or their contributions.
Yes, sir, it was very wonderful discussion. I think we learned a lot and hope to learn again in future. Thank you so much, Dr. Seshadri.
I thank Dr. Tufanpati, Dr. Amrit, and Dr. Alim for arranging such a good session with Dr. Seshadri. And it is expected that they will carry it forward and have of the next session related to this, which will enrich people further. Thank you so much.
Tufan sir.
Thank you, Dr. Seshadri, for the awesome deliberation. And one issue was raised in between, that a child may tell a lie. But I believe as doctors, we go with the principle of believing in the patients, be it a child or not. It is not our job to give a verdict. Verdict will be given by the court. Whatever you tell is a part of the presentations before the court. And when the child is abused, child is under stress, we must go with the first thing that we have to believe unless otherwise essential. I do believe in that. And about reporting, it is statutory, one has to report, convince and report. But the other reporting is becoming very critical. The media reporting, which you don't report, it becomes automatically reported. And that becomes very much traumatic for the child as well as the family. And parents and their family are there more critical about this media reporting. And at times it happens, I have seen in some cases, it is the family who has gone to the media with the suspicion that police is not doing anything. So these are the critical issues. Same child story, it harasses the child in whatever environment he is there. And another part is the rate of conviction rate has to rise. It is somewhere around 25-26%. At least in Odisha, it is around 24%. It should rise. But everything is in a positive note. And kudos to the contributions of Dr. Seshadri to not only for children, but also for the legal system. And we await 2 more sessions from Dr. Seshadri, sir. 2 सेशन हमारा हो गया उसको मिला के, जिसका आपको भेजना है हमारा नाप शर्ट्स पिछले वाले, वी आर सॉरी वी कुड नॉट सेंड, वो 2 सेशन आपको करना है, यही विनती है.
Thank you. So first of all, from the deepest areas of the heart, we want to thank Dr. Shekhar Seshadri, always somebody who is so in-depth knowledge, small things he takes up, small things elaborates it, and today's demonstration was fabulous, fantabulous. That's what I would tell. The way now we know that the child can be a competent witness. We know how to navigate the challenges and tensions of the child, how we can provide developmental assessments for the child, and the way it can be presented in a court of law. So we had lots of questions. As usual, Dr. Shekhar wants to elaborate on those questions and present it in the next session. Thank you, sir. Thank you also for accepting our invitation to do a session on special developmental kids who have special needs, like the deaf, dumb, and the intellectually challenged people. Thank you, Devasis sir. Thank you, Umesh sir. You have been wonderful chairpersons. And the way you have guided us and helped us in the whole scenario is wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Tufan sir, for bringing out the most important thing. When I went into psychiatry, the most important thing that was taught to me, the patients can never lie. So I think that's one thing we have to give the benefit out unless we have strong reasons not to believe a patient. So that goes a long way in assuring the child, even if the parents are not listening to the child, they just want to have someone who can listen to them and believe in what they are saying. Because it might sound very improbable when they talk about a brother or a father doing something to them, leave alone institutional happening, what is we see commonly. But we never hear about parents, we don't hear about brothers, we don't about mothers. We see a lot of things, but like what sir told, the whole process of reporting, there is a caveat. There is no time limit for the reporting of a CSA, and that is where we escape many times. And I'm sorry to say that many times we are not in the mood to get into that whole thing where the parents are not cooperative. But the children might be tutored to tell, no, I have not put something like that to the doctor, because most of the sessions are not recorded, like Dr. Alim was telling. Like when we have a child, we are not able to record those things. And tomorrow the child might just refuse if the parents pressurize the child that, no, I have not spoken something like that. And so those are things which we need to navigate properly. Thank you, Alim, as usual, the backbone of the whole system. Thank you to all our audience who are always coming in, asking questions, encouraging us to do more and more. Thank you, Torrent. Thank you to our backroom staff. Thank you so much. We'll meet you again. Good night. Have a wonderful holiday weekend.
And the song? What about the song?
We'll have a song. That's why I'm telling you to get it 2 minutes earlier. So one song. Aaj ka mausam hai.
New Year.
वो फिर वही मरहूम जगजीत सिंह की आवाज में हमेशा इस तरह के सेशन में तो वही याद आता है, ये दौलत भी ले लो, ये शोहरत भी ले लो, भले छीन लो मुझसे मेरी जवानी, मगर मुझको लौटा दो बचपन का सावन, वो कागज की कश्ती, वो बारिश का पानी, वो कागज की कश्ती, वो बारिश का पानी.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
A very, very, very dear song to me. अब कहते थे हम आपके साथ ही गुनगुना लें.
Good night, everybody.
Nice.
Good night.
Thank you, Devashish sir, Tufan Pati sir, Amrit bhai.
Good night. Good night.
Thank you, Dr. Konar. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah. Chintan, we can close the meeting now.
Yeah.